Epping Forest, once a royal hunting ground covering much of southwest Essex. Since 1878 it has been London's playground for the recreation and enjoyment of the public for all time. To many people, Epping Forest is notorious as a hideout for criminals. From the days of highway robber Dick Turpin to modern times, the forest has sheltered those who seek to evade the law. But this is not its only cause for fame. For those who really know and love the forest, there is a wealth of beauty and interest to be discovered all through the year, from the first bud break of spring, through the cool and shady green of summer, the dramatic glory of autumn, to the stark nakedness of winter. Epping Forest today covers 6,000 acres and is about 12 miles long. The main area is bisected by the busy A11 arterial road. From the Robin Hood roundabout, a secondary road through Loughton joins the A11 at the Wake Arms. From the highest ground, nearly 400 feet above sea level, the streams drain into the Roding Valley in the east and the Lee Valley in the west. 2/3 of the acreage is woodland, and the rest is open grassland, and includes Woodford Green, Wanstead Flats, and Chingford Plain. The whole area is protected from development by ancient laws. Cricket is played on Woodford Green, at Buckhurst Hill, football on Wanstead Flats and Chingford Plain and Thaden Boys, and 3 public golf courses are maintained. The Epping Forest Act of 1878 appointed the Corporation of London as conservators, with a management committee of 12. Four local verderers elected by the commoners for periods of 7 years also serve on the committee, which plans the work to be done in the forest and is carried out by the superintendent and his team of keepers and woodmen. A number of keepers and forest staff live in the forest, and most of their picturesque old lodges are now replaced by modern buildings. Between 1700 and 1870, a great deal of forest land was enclosed by landowners. Some of this has since been returned. In 1930, the Buxton family sold their 37-acre estate to Woodford Urban District Council and the City of London jointly. It is an attractive addition with its ornamental lake and masses of naturalized daffodils, azaleas, and rhododendrons. Horse riding is permitted on the forest, but riders must keep inside the white painted posts. This is the Jubilee Ride, and north of it restrictions are only imposed when necessary. Many local people use the forest to exercise their dogs. These must be under effective control and wear a collar bearing the name and address of their owner. Greyhounds are required to be muzzled. These trees bear the mark of history, having been regularly pollarded by local people who had the right to cut wood until 1878, when their rights were rescinded by the Epping Forest Act. The church in the forest at High Beach was built in 1872 and is a place of pilgrimage for many forest lovers. It is well worth a visit. Also at High Beach is the Field Centre for Waltham Forest school children, run by Mr. Fred Speakman. Forest badgers can only be seen at night, but the children who come here are quite familiar with the tame badger, and also the fox, another shy forest dweller. This is not a forest owl, but it is a great favourite with the children. Several natural history societies use the forest for observing and recording wildlife. Their members' trained eyes can penetrate the shady wood where the deer are browsing. They alone will spot the adders enjoying the warm sunshine. Or the nimble grey squirrel as it runs for cover. The forest is rich in fungi. Over 300 species have been recorded. Some are destructive and cause the death of forest trees. Most are harmless, and many are edible, like this giant puffball, which disperses millions of spores into the atmosphere. Bird life is prolific, and during the winter months, tits, woodpeckers, and nuthatches frequent the woods. In the height of summer, over 50 species can be recorded, and the nightingale still sings in the forest glades. A heavy fall of snow brings out a surge of activity, and the favourite slopes are as busy as Piccadilly Circus, and as hazardous for the unwary. But some prefer to seek the seclusion of forest ponds. And the real forest lover is alone in a world of silent beauty. While it is true that you will not find drifts of primroses and bluebells in Epping Forest, it is possible to find many interesting plants if you know where to look. Bogbean occurs in several ponds and is one of the loveliest of wild flowers. Several rare ferns grow in the woods. The naturalists keep records of all the plants occurring in the forest, and sites of special interest are visited regularly to to keep a check on the progress of the plants. Once Queen Elizabeth's hunting lodge, now the Epping Forest Museum. Here one may learn about the commoners' ancient grazing rights. These people are entitled to turn out cattle to graze on forest land. The animals are given the parish mark and then turned loose. They have free access all over forest land and give valuable service in grazing the open spaces, which would otherwise revert to scrubland. Of course they do wander onto the road at times, but motorists are given adequate warning on all forest roads. They also stray into gardens in residential areas, but the householder whose land adjoins the forest has no right of appeal. The only answer is a firmly closed gate or a cattle grid. The forest has many attractive ponds, well over 100. Many are old gravel pits, and those bordering the main roads are horse ponds, and were used to water the animals in the days of horse transport. On several of the larger ponds, boating facilities are provided. These ponds are a great attraction to children, and pond dipping is the thing in springtime. Over-collecting of tadpoles is believed to be the reason for the diminishing number of frogs in the forest. Autumn sunshine brings out the photographers, and there is much to please them. The main problem is to secure the best viewpoint, and there is nothing like a beech wood in late October. With so many people using the forest in different ways, the conservators are ever watchful to preserve the natural aspect, and strict bylaws are enforced. It is an offence to uproot plants, damage trees or cut wood, remove soil, light fires, carry a gun, or park a car 1 hour after sunset on forest land. One of the biggest problems is the disposal of litter. Not so much the litter of the forest users, but the dumping of rubbish and unwanted household effects on forest land. This is collected and taken to a central dump at High Beach. Last year, over 300 tons of litter was collected, and this dump has now been filled in. Maintenance of forest trees is one of the main activities of the woodman. After severe gales or a heavy snowfall, there is considerable damage to be dealt with. Beech is particularly prone to such damage as it is very shallow-rooted. The pollarded trees often collapse at the crown, and an outwardly strong and healthy tree is found to be hollow inside. Fallen trees and branches are sawn up on the site and brought to Broad Street Lodge, where a store of firewood is built up and sold to the public at certain times. As it is mainly beech and hornbeam, and the cost is very moderate, the wood is in great demand and sells very quickly. However, with the arrival of smokeless zones surrounding the forest, future sales are uncertain. Thinning is another important aspect of the woodman's work, and this is done to open up and give growing space to young trees. This is a natural forest, and regeneration is encouraged rather than the direct planting of young trees. Birch is usually first to colonize the open spaces, and it grows fast. It shelters the more slow-growing oak and beech. Holly is not thinned, as it is the main winter diet of the forest deer. This is a forest, not a park, and fallen logs are not always removed for the sake of tidiness. They afford great interest to the naturalist. Many forms of insect life and several species of fungi are to be found in rotting timber. One of the most heartbreaking decisions the conservators had to make was the felling of the black poplar avenue on Woodford Green. These trees had stood for 90 years, well past their normal lifespan, and although apparently still strong and healthy, they were pronounced unsafe by the conservators' advisers. In the face of strong local opposition, the 79 trees were skillfully felled by a handful of men. Their method was simple. A wire rope was fixed around the trunk, while a slice was removed from the base. A short pull, and it's all over. The large trunks were sold as timber for coffins, and the brushwood was burnt on the site. The avenue stands no longer, just a line of stumps. Their rotten timbers alone will testify to the wisdom of the conservators' decision. The City of London spends over £60,000 a year on Epping Forest, and not a penny is raised by the rates. On our doorstep we have one of Britain's most interesting open spaces, ours to enjoy, each in our own way. And as guardians, we have a dedicated team of conservators. Our forest is in safe and competent hands. Long may it continue.